What's up? This is Trey T, and in this video, I will be discussing the difference between Man of Steel and the new Superman movie. So before I get into the details, I'm gonna just go ahead and say spoiler alert. It's gonna be spoilers in this review. I'm not gonna tell everything, but there are some things that are gonna be spoilers. And before I get into depth with anything, I just want to say the main difference between Man of Steel and the new Superman movie. Man of Steel, they're both action movies. Man of Steel is more of an action movie than a comic book movie. Yes, it does have Superman in it, but it's not comic book accurate as more as this Superman movie was. This Superman movie is way more comic book oriented than Man of Steel was. So now let's jump into it based off that information. Before I get into the plot, I want to start with Superman's Kryptonian parents, Laura and Jor-El. So if you remember, this is what the parents in Man of Steel look like at the top, and these are what the parents look like at the bottom in the new Superman movie. Depending on your preference, which one you think looks better. Me personally, I prefer the Man of Steel parents, even though I know that's Bradley Cooper on the bottom. It was something about Superman's parents and this new Superman. They didn't sit right with me how they looked. The parents I could deal with, but what I couldn't deal with is how they did Martha and Jonathan Kent. I don't, no disrespect to those actors, but for me to believe that these two people are Jonathan and Martha Kent, especially the way the mom sounded. Like, no disrespect, I've never been to Kansas. I know Smallville was in Kansas. I've never been to Kansas. And I don't even know if people from Mississippi or Alabama or Arkansas even talk like the way that this lady was talking. Like, she sounded way too much like a hillbilly for Clark Kent to be raised up the way he was raised. For him not to sound like that at all based off how his parents sound. I was so disappointed in how they made Martha and Jonathan Kent look. And they didn't even have them in the movie a lot. They didn't even really show them a lot in the movie. We don't really even see them until it's like almost an hour into the movie. And then, hey, it's this scene in the movie after like Mr. Terrific and Lois Lane rescue Clark from Lex Luthor, and they bring him back to Smallville to the farm. And they put him like in his bed that he grew up in, his house. And then like Jonathan Kent started crying. And then the mom, Martha Kent, she said, "Oh, don't mind him. He's just a big old mush, especially when it comes to Clark." I was like, what the hell was that? Like, that don't even sound, I don't know what that was. That don't even sound like Martha Kent. Like, I was just dying laughing at that scene. The parents on Man of Steel, Jonathan and Martha Kent, seem way more realistic than the ones that they had in the new Superman movie. Okay, here come the spoilers. So these are the plots for both Man of Steel and the new Superman movie. So the plot basically in this movie was Lex Luthor hates Superman. He doesn't like the Superman, this alien with superpowers. Or, well, in this case, he's not an alien. He's a meta-human. I hate that they try to make Superman into a meta-human. But anyway, Lex Luthor braces to the Fortress of Solitude, and they destroy like the robots and stuff, and they hack into Superman's like computer. He uses this nanobot woman called the Engineer, and she breaks into the computer. And it's a message that Superman's parents from Krypton left him. And like Superman could only read half of the message. The other message, part of the message was corrupted, and it was like buffering and stuff. So Superman never could decipher it and understand what it meant. But Lex Luthor somehow was able to. So the message it was telling uh, Clark that, okay, the planet we're sending you to is Earth. You're gonna have special powers. You're gonna be a god to them, basically. And then the second part of the message that Clark never heard was his parents telling him to mess with a whole bunch of women and have a whole bunch of wives and to spread his seed, and you'll be able to conquer them and spread the Kryptonian way and stuff like that. So now that Lex Luthor has that, he had already met with like the generals and stuff, telling them how much of a threat Superman was, and that Lex had already started building like his own people, like the Engineer and Ultraman, and his own like group. So the group, he named them Planet Watch. That was the little army that he made. So basically, Lex Luthor, once he found all this information out, he gave it to the reporters, and they like Superman and the Junior Justice League with the C-list. That's another thing I didn't like, that they got like C-list Justice League members, like Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl. Even though I know Hawk Girl was like a main one on Justice League, the animated series, but like when you think of the Justice League, Hawk Girl is not one of the first names you think of. You think of like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, like that. Aquaman. You don't think of Hawk Girl. But anyway, so they had just got done in a battle. They won. The news reporters start playing the message from Clark's parents on the news, and then everybody is tuned into it and they're watching it. And they was like, oh man, Superman is here to conquer us and betray us and all that type of stuff. In Man of Steel, if you remember, Superman was already in Kansas for like 33 years. He was already growing up and stuff. And then when Zod and them finally escaped the Phantom Zone, that's when Zod and the other Kryptonians came to Smallville and threatened them and told them, there is one of our citizens who has been living amongst you for decades or years or whatever. If you don't turn him over to us, the Earth will suffer dire consequences and stuff like that. That's how Zod came into the picture. Like, Zod, remember, all the electricity power and stuff went out, and then Zod spread his message all the way across the world, and he told them, hey, if y'all don't deliver us our Kryptonian citizen, it's gonna be the end of Earth, basically. So that was the plot. That's how it went in Man of Steel, how the danger went when Zod invaded Earth. This dude right here was so cringy and annoying. The Baravian leader, president, whatever he was so annoying in this movie. And then so this is when, after that happened, Superman surrendered himself. They got Ultraman and Planet Watch to go arrest Superman, and they brought him in, and then Lex Luthor imprisoned him and all that type of stuff. But this is the problem that I had, because I don't read comics like that, but any animated movie, TV show I've ever seen, Lex Luthor is really not a team player. The fact that other than like in Justice League, and if you notice, if you ever watch any of those animated shows, Lex Luthor reluctantly works with those people. Lex Luthor really doesn't like working with like other people. He always has some kind of secret backup plan to betray them in the end. So Lex Luthor is really not a team player. So that's what really made me mad in this movie, is that Lex Luthor had all these people working, not just working for him, but working with him. And they were doing it from his headquarters. So it's called Luthor Corp in the movie, but you know, it's always Lex Corp. But in the movie, it's called Luthor Corp. They're operating from Luthor Corp headquarters trying to kill Superman. Since when does Lex Luthor has scientists that help him and stuff, but when does he have like people cheering him on and stuff and clapping and applauding? The Baravian leader, he came through that portal, that pocket dimension that Lex Luthor created. He was like, yeah, Lex, we did it. When the hell does that ever happen with Lex Luthor? Like, I just felt that whole thing was cringy in the movie, to have all these people working with Lex to try to kill Superman. Now in Man of Steel, when Superman surrendered, Because if you remember, see, this is the difference. Lois Lane actually did reporter detective type work in Man of Steel. She went and interviewed several people until she figured out that Clark Kent was Superman. This is one of the few times, because if you ever think back to like Justice League animated series, Superman animated series, Justice League Unlimited, nobody really knows that Clark Kent is Superman. Lois doesn't even really know. Like, Lois Lane actually did reporting to figure that out in Man of Steel. In the new Superman movie, maybe she figured it out, but we don't see that like on camera, and they're dating and stuff, so it's no point. I don't know how she figured out, but in Man of Steel, Lois Lane is the only one that knows that Clark Kent is Superman, and she tells somebody else that she knew who Superman is, and that's how when he surrendered himself, it's because they kidnapped Lois Lane, because that guy said, Lois Lane know who this guy is. So that's why they went and arrested Lois Lane. And then Superman got mad. So he went to go find her and they arrested him. And they decided to turn him over to General Zod. So here's a look at the like Daily Planet people. You got Clark Kent, you had Cat Grant, you had Lois Lane. I don't like that in this movie, even though it's at the Daily Planet, we rarely got to see Perry White. Like, we saw him, but we didn't see him interacting with Clark Kent and Lois Lane like any other versions that you would see with Perry White at the Daily Planet. And the main thing I had a problem with in this movie is Jimmy Olsen. First off, why is Jimmy Olsen like right there anyway? He's a photographer. Like, why is he talking about the stories? And so I understand, like, in some versions, Jimmy wants to become a reporter, I think. But in this one, it's not that makes me mad. It's that they made him some kind of playboy. So in the movie, at the Daily Planet, you see two girls laughing and snickering, and they looking at Jimmy, telling us he's so fine or something like that. And then it's this ex-girlfriend of Jimmy that's so hung up over him, and she keeps calling him and trying to get back together, having wanted to go away on the weekends, have dinner and stuff with him, and she works for Lex Luthor. So she ended up helping because she was taking pictures secretly to help Jimmy. But still, the fact that they made Jimmy Olsen some kind of playboy in this movie, that was really stupid to me. And now let's talk about like the Junior Justice League with Mr. Terrific was all right. Mr. Terrific is probably like the best part of the movie for some people, because I've been seeing some people saying they need to give Mr. Terrific his own like spinoff movie, TV show or something. Guy Gardner, like, my whole problem was, why did you get the C-list Justice League members like Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl and Metamorpho? We'll get the Metamorpho. They just ruined Metamorpho for me. They made him so weak, and he was crying and stuff, and he was trying to get his ugly son. Like, it was like a little ugly baby in the movie that was his son. I didn't like how they did Metamorpho, because if you watch again, I don't read comics, I just go by like the animated versions and stuff. If you watch Justice League, you will know what type of person Metamorpho was and how big and bad Metamorpho was. So for him to be reduced to what he was in this movie, it really upset me. Crypto, the dog, was very annoying to me. But if you watch the end of the movie, I'm not going to tell like what happened, how it ends and all that. But if you watch the very, very, very end of the movie, you'll see why Crypto kind of probably is like the way he is, why he acts like that with Superman and other beings and people. But Crypto had some scenes where he was helping and saving the day. But again, like the Justice League, they call themselves the Justice Gang. Well, Guy Gardner calls them the Justice Gang in this movie. They had, like, Superman had a lot of, like, Superman really don't even appear a lot in this movie. Like, he's in the movie, but he's not doing a lot of the fighting. The Justice League is doing most of the fighting. In Man of Steel, it was mainly just, like, other than, like, the military helping, in this movie, I mean, in Man of Steel, it was just Superman fighting the Kryptonians and stuff. When he had to fight Zod and Feora and that other dude, I forgot the other guy's name. Now, Superman did have to fight Ultraman. He did have to fight the Engineer. But again, he still had backup with the Justice League, or the Justice Gang in this case. So for me, I'm going to sum it up like this. For me, I give Man of Steel an 8.5 out of 10. The only problem I have with Man of Steel really is the fact that he killed General Zod. If not for that, I would have it like a 9 or a 9 point something. But the fact that he killed Zod, I gotta give it an 8.5 out of 10. This new Superman movie, it was alright. I get, if you like comic book accurate, yeah, you're gonna probably love it or like it a lot. I give it a 6 out of 10. The first time I watched it, I gave it a 5.5. I raised it to a 6 out of 10. But for me, I'm looking at these like two action movies. Man of Steel to me was a better movie, but the new Superman movie was a better Superman movie. Superman was a better Superman movie. It was more comic book accurate than Man of Steel was. Man of Steel, I feel, was a better movie action-wise and plot-wise and characters and all that type of stuff. But if you want the comic book style Superman, then this one was definitely a better Superman movie. But like that's the way I look at it. But let me know in the comment section, how did you like the movie? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it all right? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like and comment. More videos coming soon. Trey T out. Peace.